Hey everyone, welcome to this week's video where I'm going to touch on some of the key points in the chapters that you're supposed to be reading. So this week, the chapters are chapter 9, which is about personality and cultural values, and then chapter 10, which is all about ability. So with that being said, let's dive into it. All right, so talking about personality. Personality is a super fascinating thing because everyone's is different. And the way that the book defines personality is that it is the structures and propensities inside a person that explain his or her characteristic patterns of thoughts, emotion, and behavior. So you can think of it, right? Like, what are all the different ingredients that go into someone that it outlines what they would do or what their pattern is with thoughts, emotions, and with how they behave. So there, according to the text, there's really six main areas or ingredients that kind of go into people's personalities. So the first one is family environment, right? So if you think about this, you can think of, did someone grow up with two parents? Did they grow up with one parent? Did their grandparents raise them? Is someone adopted? Are you the youngest child? Are you the oldest child? Right? Because you see different personality traits with the way people are raised and with the kind of like the structure that they fall in of being the oldest or the youngest or middle child. So, or were there like 10 children in someone's family? All of that affects an individual. Then we look at education, right? Does someone have a high school diploma? Did they go to university? What university did they go to? What did they study? When you think about the years of education that someone takes in their lifetime, it's a lot. So there's going to be all of these things that are taught to them and from different professors, right? What you learn from me versus what you learn from Professor Butler, right? In the same class is going to be a little bit differently. So, keeping that in mind of education. Then we have geographic location, which, as someone that's worked internationally and teaches international management, to me, I personally find this one of the most interesting things. So, your geographic location, right? That's going to have a huge effect on your personality, right? If you have been born and raised in Tennessee and you've never left the state, you're going to have a certain way that you view things, certain behaviors of how you react to things, versus if you're someone that grew up in Germany, then you move to another country, then now you're in the United States, you're going to have a different personality style. A lot of times I try to think of my students that I worked with in China and my students that I work with here in UTC, and how the different environments and cultural norms really plays effect into personality style. So this kind of the geographic location, it leads directly into Hofstede's cultural dimensions, which is talked about in the textbook in this chapter. And it's a super critical thing to know about. There will be questions on the exam about Hofstede's cultural dimensions. So make sure that you read that very thoroughly. So moving away from that, then we look at activities, right? So are you someone that played sports? Did you play instruments? Did you go to church, right? I, grew up going to church in a Christian family, still go to church today, and that's inspired a lot of my ways of thinking, my emotions, and my behavior, right? I also played rugby, and I was the team captain of my team in high school and then at UTC. So it caused leadership roles, right, within those sorts of activities, which has shaped my personality. Then we look at friends and peers, right? A lot of times, people's friends and people that they hang out with can really affect someone's personality over time. So that's something to look at as well. And then the last piece that's mentioned in the book is work experience, right? What kind of industries have you worked in? What kind of roles have you worked in? Have you been in leadership roles or have you not? What kind of bosses have you had? Have you had really bosses that are intentional with your growth and seeing you succeed, or did you have bosses that were kind of jerks, right? So those six things are really kind of the main ingredients that go into creating someone's personality, which is just fascinating to look at. And I love looking at people and kind of analyzing their personality based on the different factors that we have here. So these personalities, what they kind of lead into is, how successful someone can be at work. So with that being said, we're going to dive into the big five personality traits. So the big five personality traits is something that businesses look at and organizations look at in order to kind of look at someone's personality and see, how are they going to react on a personality level in different situations or different jobs or different settings. So out of the big five personality traits, the first one is looking at someone's openness to experiences, right? And the way that they kind of classify that is if someone's creative or if they're conventional, right? If someone's creative, you may want to look at them for roles that need more creative tendencies versus, people that have more conventional personality traits are probably people that you want doing certain types of jobs where you have to follow rigid structures. So that's the first one. Then we look at conscientiousness, right? So the first one with that is, how organized is someone? Do you have a task list? Are you always on top of things? Or are you kind of careless or unorganized? And, that's looking at conscientiousness. Then we have extroversion and introversion. And looking at that, right? Everyone here that's watching this video and in my classes, whenever I teach this, I'm who's an extrovert, who's an introvert. And that's looking at how outgoing are you or how reserved are you. If you are, looking at working in a role where you're a spokesperson for a company and you have to do a lot of networking events, something that an organization may want to look for is someone that has a outgoing personality when it comes to the extroversion section of the big five personality traits. Then we have agreeableness, and that is looking at how cooperative someone is or how much someone just agrees with something versus how competitive is someone. For example, if you're looking for a sales role, right? Someone that's going to be trying to get sales, they're driven by success, commission type pay. You may be looking for someone that's a little bit more competitive than, cooperative in the agreeable area, right? So that way it's someone that's not afraid to get in there and try to make those big deals. Then we have the next one we're looking at being emotionally stable, right? So is someone that tends to be calm and level-headed, or is it someone that's anxious and always on edge? Because that can kind of predict, how is someone going to react in a certain situation, right? If you're a firefighter or a police officer, you're going to want someone with a calm personality as opposed to someone with an anxious personality. So as we move into chapter 10 from chapter 9, chapter 10 focuses on ability. So one of the key types of ability that this chapter focuses on is cognitive ability. And cognitive ability is really kind of the main driver of someone's ability to learn and also decision making. So there's 5 specific areas that cognitive abilities look at. So the first one is verbal, right? What is someone's verbal ability? What is someone's quantitative ability? So that's kind of looking at mathematics and so on. And then we look at reasoning, right? How well can someone reason what's happening or understanding that? We also look at spatial ability and then perceptual ability. And the cognitive ability, it's highly linked to someone's job performance, right? If someone has a high level of cognitive ability, especially if it's in an area that's directly related to their job. I was talking earlier about someone in like a spokesperson role. That person would need to have a high level cognitive ability when it comes to verbal, right? So cognitive ability, it can be a strong predictor of someone's job performance. So you see a lot of organizations, depending on the job, kind of do ability testing before they hire someone. So on the left side of this slide, you'll see a test, and that is actually called the Wonderlic test. It's a popular test. It's talked about in the text, but it kind of goes through and it tests people's different cognitive abilities, and then it's able to provide them with a score. And so, organizations, they give these types of tests to predict how well someone may do at a specific job. So, in addition to cognitive ability, I want to focus on two other types of abilities that are pretty important, especially depending on what type of job someone may have. So, the first one is emotional intelligence. And hopefully, you have heard of this before. You should have if you're in this class, because I believe management concepts, theories, and practice actually covers emotional intelligence in detail. But what that is it's someone's self-awareness to their emotions, how aware they are to other people's emotions, how well is someone able to regulate their own emotions, and then can someone use those emotions effectively, to help drive someone or persuade someone, or even to persuade yourself. So, looking at emotional intelligence, right? That's another key ability that's super important. And then we also have physical abilities. And so with that, we all know what that is. That's someone's physical ability, right? Like, what are you able to do physically? So it's looking at someone's strengths, someone's stamina, flexibility, someone's motor skills. And, these don't always apply in every situation, but they do apply on certain jobs that are really important. So one thing I think of is that there's this girl that I play volleyball with, and she works as a geologist. But as part of her job, she's constantly in caves looking at rocks and the earth. So she is very physically fit, right? She's constantly having to maneuver around caves, tight spaces, climb over rocks, right? So she has to have that strength and that flexibility and that stamina to be able to work in that type of job and that environment, right? She doesn't necessarily have to have a ton of emotional intelligence to be able to deal with other people, because the majority of her job is in caves, looking at rocks in the earth, right? Where on the other hand, if someone is working as a therapist, right, then they're going to need to have a high level of emotional intelligence where they're able to assess other people's emotions, they're able to regulate their own emotions, and how they're able to use those emotions to help someone out. Whereas a therapist may not necessarily need a lot of physical abilities. Now, I'm not talking about physical therapist or occupational therapist. I'm talking about like mental health therapist, right? Counselors. So, different levels of abilities related to emotional intelligence and physical abilities are different depending on the job. But it is really important for me just to kind of briefly touch on those, and the text talks about it more in detail as well. And with all of that, that is our quick overview video on Chapter 9 related to personality and cultural values, and then Chapter 10 on ability. So as always, I just kind of covered like a brief, high-level key points in these chapters. It's still really important for you to go in and read the whole chapters, because there's certain things that I did not cover in much detail, such as Hofstede's cultural dimensions. But make sure you do that on your own. Also, make sure to complete this week's online module. And then if you have any questions, that's my information on the screen. Just reach out to me and I'm happy to respond. It's always a lot faster to reach out to me over text instead of email. But yeah, I look forward to next week, and have a good week learning these things. See ya.